Hi, I'm Jarissel, here to discuss some helpful tips and tricks for processing your payroll. Our goal really is to save you time and money so that you can get back to what matters most, which is running your business. Today I'm here with Randy, our in-house payroll expert, to discuss wage attachments. So walk me through that. What exactly is a wage attachment?
Wage attachments are also known as garnishments. I think people are probably going to have a little bit more familiarity with that term. A couple of examples, Jarissel, of wage attachments would be child support, would be probably one of the most commonly known. Tax levies, either federal or state. Student loans. One other thing that I always like to mention, because I think it's kind of important, and that's medical support orders. Those have kind of come into vogue in the last 5 years or so. That's when someone has child support, but the state is coming back to indicate that these people must provide medical coverage for their children, for their dependent or their children that are covered by the child support order.
Right. So to break it down even one step further, just for my sake, because we're not all experts, but just to break it down once more. So a wage attachment is a court-ordered or an agency-ordered attachment or garnishment. Is that correct?
They are indeed.
And so when we say, again, just taking it a step down, so when we say garnishment, we mean it is a deduction that's taken out of your wages. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. Now I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page. So how does that affect payroll in general, these deductions, these additional deductions?
Well, there's a couple of different considerations from a payroll perspective, I think, that bear mentioning. The first being is that these orders sometimes impact different levels of wages. A good example would be sometimes they will tell you that you need to attach disposable wages. In other instances, and more specifically like with the federal tax levy, they're going to indicate that you need to deduct it from the person's take-home pay.
Okay.
With the federal tax levy also, they're telling you how much money you can pay the employee. Not like a percentage or a specific amount that is deducted from an employee's pay. So that's a totally different type situation. There's also prioritization that goes on with garnishments. Some are more impactful and are have a higher priority than other things. Child support's very high, tax levies are very high, whereas a creditor garnishment is kind of way down, at the lowest level. And there are some states that do not allow creditor garnishments to be deducted from employees' pay.
Okay, so there is so are these garnishments taken off in their gross wage, or at what point are these? Because there's so many, obviously, taxes and deductions that are paid and are reflected on someone's W-2 or someone's paycheck. At what point are these garnishments deducted?
Well, they're taken off the gross pay, but the situation being the difference in between take-home pay and disposable wages is generally certain other deductions that occur in there. And
like what?
Well, there's a good one would be 401k. A 401k is a pre-tax deduction, but it may not be allowed, before you take a garnishment.
So our suggestion would be for an employer to go ahead and check
with each individual state. Yes.
To make sure whether they do whether these are deducted on their disposable wages versus their
net pay.
Their net pay. Okay. And you were saying also about the ranking, and in terms of there being a prioritization.
Some have a little bit more or carry a little bit more weight than others. One other thing too about the wage orders is you can have a person that has multiple wage orders. Okay, generally speaking.
Is there a cap?
Well, they're going to run out of money, or they're going to get right down to the actual minimum wage, which generally most of the rules are going to mandate that you pay that employee at least the minimum wage.
Okay.
The prevailing minimum wage in their state, of course, as you know, there's a federal minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, but other states have other minimum wages. There's other counties. So people would need to check into those things to make sure that they're in compliance as it relates to that. Another thing is bankruptcies. Bankruptcies are generally a high-ranking type of event. But when creditor garnishments, and I want to get back to that for a minute, because creditor garnishments are that they're policed effectively by the Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division. And generally speaking, the Consumer Credit Protection Act is what that agency is going to look at to make sure that you're in compliance with that when it comes to collecting creditor garnishments.
Okay. So really, the most important thing, I think, and the biggest takeaway of this discussion for an employer is to, as you mentioned, go ahead and contact that state directly, because there are certain caps or limitations, or as you were mentioning, there are some states that don't even accept certain garnishments. So to go ahead and clarify that as you set up your payroll and assess that payroll is of the utmost importance. Is that correct?
Correct. And one other thing I might add too is that it's very important when you're dealing with levies of any kind, tax levies from the state or federal, do not release those until they give you permission to do so, until the governments or taxing jurisdictions give you permission to do so.
Okay. Well noted. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Randy, for joining us, and I hope this was helpful. Until next time.